The war had no beginning, at least not one that anyone could remember. It had raged for so long that entire civilizations had risen and fallen while the battle continued. The Xilari Empire and the Zarth Dominion were the two most powerful factions in the galaxy, and for centuries they had fought for control. No one knew why the war had started. Some said it was for power, others claimed it was revenge. But the truth had been lost in time. Planets had been turned to ash. Cities, once full of life, were now nothing but ruins floating in space. Billions had died, but neither side could win. The war had reached a deadlock, an endless cycle of destruction. And in the middle of it all, humanity watched and waited. Humanity stays neutral. Humans were the newcomers to the galactic stage. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel a few hundred years ago. Compared to the ancient empires of the Xilari and Zarth, they were young. But they were smart. Instead of joining the war, humanity stayed neutral. They traded with both sides, sold technology, and built their own strength in the shadows. The Xilari and Zarth saw humans as nothing more than a minor species, too weak to matter in a war of giants. They were wrong. On Earth's moon base, deep inside a high-security war room, Commander Work stood before a massive holographic map of the galaxy. Red and blue markers represented the endless battles between the Xilari and Zarth. No matter how many ships were destroyed, more would always take their place. "This war will never end," said Admiral Hayes, an older man with a scar running down his cheek. "They will fight until nothing is left." Work nodded. "And when that happens, they'll come for us next." The room fell silent. Humanity had been ignored for now, but once the war ended, the winner would turn their eyes toward Earth. And humans would be the next target, unless they acted first. A mysterious message. Just as Work was about to speak, a soft alarm rang through the room. A new transmission had arrived. An encrypted message from an unknown source. The screen flickered, and a robotic voice spoke. "The war is a lie. The true power is hidden. Find it before they do." The message ended. No name, no location, just a warning. Work exchanged looks with the other officers. "What the hell was that?" asked Lieutenant Vega, tapping on her tablet to trace the signal. "No idea," Work said. "But I think we just found our reason to get involved." The true threat. Unknown to the galaxy, hidden deep in the ruins of a lost civilization, lay the Eye of Annihilation, a super weapon powerful enough to destroy an entire star system. The Xilari and Zarth had been searching for it, believing it could end the war once and for all. But if either side found it, the war wouldn't end. It would get worse. Work clenched his fists. Humanity couldn't afford to wait anymore. They had to act. The war that none could end was about to meet its true master. Earth was taking control. The war had lasted for centuries, but now something had changed. A mysterious message had warned humanity of a hidden power, something capable of ending the war forever. The Eye of Annihilation. If the Xilari or Zarth found it first, they would use it to destroy their enemies. And then, they would turn their attention to Earth. Humanity had no choice. They had to act. Mission begins. Deep inside Earth's moon base, Commander Work stood in the war room, staring at the encrypted message. His officers were gathered around him. "We need to find this weapon before they do," he said, his voice firm. Admiral Hayes frowned. "We don't even know if it's real." Work turned to Lieutenant Vega, their best intelligence officer. "Any leads?" Vega nodded. "I traced the message's signal. It came from a dead planet, Galfar 7. According to old records, it was once home to an advanced civilization. Now, it's just ruins." "A lost civilization," Hayes muttered. "That's where this weapon comes from." "Yes," Vega confirmed. "The Valtheri vanished thousands of years ago, but some believe they built weapons far beyond anything in the galaxy today." Work exhaled slowly. "Then that's our target. We move now." Race against time. A small but elite strike team was assembled. "Commander Work, Leader of the mission, Lieutenant Vega, intelligence and hacking expert. Captain Doran, heavy weapons specialist. Sergeant Kelly, pilot and engineer. Their ship, the Valiant, launched within hours, heading straight for Valthar 7. But they weren't the only ones on the move. Both the Xilari Empire and the Zarth Dominion had picked up strange energy readings from the dead planet. Their fleets were already on their way. The race had begun. Arrival at Valthar 7. The Valiant dropped out of hyperspace near the ruined planet. It was a desolate world, covered in massive stone structures and forgotten technology. "This place gives me the creeps," Doran muttered as he scanned the ruins from the ship. Vega's fingers flew across her tablet. "I'm detecting a massive energy signature underground. That must be the weapon." "Then let's get it before someone else does," Rourke said. The team landed near the ruins and moved quickly, weapons ready. The structures were ancient, covered in alien symbols. Strange machines, long dead, stood like statues. Then Vega's voice came through the comms. "Commander, we have a problem. The enemy arrives." A massive Xilari warship descended from the sky, its cannons glowing with deadly energy. "They're already here," Rourke growled. The enemy ship deployed ground troops, heavily armed warriors in advanced power armor. "They must have intercepted our signal," Kelly shouted. Blaster fire erupted as the Xilari soldiers advanced. The humans took cover behind the ruins, firing back. But just as the battle began, another alert flashed on Vega's screen. "Commander," she gasped, "there's something else, something below us." A deep, rumbling sound echoed from beneath the ground. The ruins began to shake. And then something ancient started waking up. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Dust and debris rained down as the ruins of Valthar 7 shook with an ancient, unseen force. Commander Rourke and his team took cover, their weapons raised, eyes darting between the enemy Xilari soldiers and the crumbling ruins around them. "We need to move. Now." Rourke shouted over the roar of the collapsing structures. But the Xilari weren't retreating. Instead, they were scanning something. Their leader, a tall warrior in golden armor, pressed a device on his wrist. "The vault is opening," Lieutenant Vega whispered. Her scanner flickered. "Whatever's buried here, it's waking up." Then, the ground beneath them split apart. A deep blue energy beam shot up from the cracks, illuminating the darkened sky. A massive underground door, hidden for thousands of years, slowly opened. And beneath it, glowing in the darkness, was the Eye of Annihilation. The race for the weapon. For a moment, everything was silent. The Eye of Annihilation wasn't just a weapon. It was a floating sphere of energy, pulsing with a strange, almost living light. The Valthari had built it long ago, but its full power had never been unleashed. And now, both humans and Xilari stood at the entrance, staring at ultimate destruction. Then chaos erupted. "Move. Take the weapon before they do," Rourke shouted. Gunfire filled the air as both sides rushed toward the vault. The ruins turned into a battlefield, ancient stones crumbling under the weight of explosions and plasma fire. Captain Doran fired his heavy blaster, taking down 2 Xilari warriors. Sergeant Kelly used her drone to scan the vault, searching for a way inside. But then, the betrayal came. The true enemy revealed. A sharp pain shot through Rourke's chest as something cold and metallic pressed against his back. "Drop your weapon, Commander," a voice whispered. Rourke's mind raced. That voice, it was Vega. Slowly, he turned his head. Lieutenant Vega stood behind him, her sidearm aimed at his head. Her eyes, once full of determination, now burned with something else. "You knew about this all along," Rourke said, his voice calm but dangerous. Vega smirked. "I didn't just find the message, Commander. I sent it." Rourke's blood ran cold. "The war will never end unless we force it to," Vega continued. "The Xilari, the Zarth, they'll keep fighting forever. But if humanity controls the Eye of Annihilation, we can wipe out both sides. We can be the rulers of the galaxy. She wasn't working for the Xilari. She wasn't working for the Zarth. She was working for herself. A desperate escape. Before Vega could pull the trigger, an explosion shook the ruins. The Xilari had activated something inside the vault. The weapon was powering up. The ground cracked, sending Rourke tumbling forward. He rolled, grabbed his sidearm, and fired. Vega dodged, but the distraction gave Kelly just enough time to tackle her. "Commander, we need to go," Doran shouted. Rourke's instincts screamed at him to finish Vega, but there was no time. The vault was collapsing. With one final look, Rourke turned and ran. The team sprinted toward their shuttle, dodging falling debris and enemy fire. Behind them, Vega disappeared into the ruins, lost beneath the collapsing vault. As the shuttle's engines roared to life, Rourke watched the ruins vanish beneath the dust. The Eye of Annihilation was still out there. And now, both the Xilari and the Zarth knew about it. Humanity was no longer a bystander in the war. They were a target. The war had raged for centuries, but now, humanity was no longer in the shadows. The Xilari Empire and the Zarth Dominion both knew that humans had interfered on Valthar 7. Worse, they knew that the Eye of Annihilation, a super weapon powerful enough to destroy entire star systems, had been found. And humanity was now caught in the crossfire. A galaxy at war. Commander Rourke sat in the command center of Earth's Lunar Defense Station, staring at a massive holographic display of the galaxy. Red and blue lines stretched across it, marking the battlefronts of the endless war. But now, for the first time, a third color, white, appeared on the map. It represented Earth. The Xilari and the Zarth have both increased fleet movements toward human space, Admiral Hayes said. His voice was calm, but his hands were clenched into fists. They know we're a threat now. Rourke exhaled slowly. How long before they attack? Days, maybe hours. Humanity had stayed neutral for hundreds of years. Now they had no choice but to fight. The plan to survive. The Eye of Annihilation had disappeared after the collapse of Valthar 7. No one knew where it had gone. But Rourke had a feeling. Vega knew too much, he said, turning to his officers. She wasn't just betraying us. She was planning something bigger. If she survived, she has the weapon. The room went silent. If Vega had the Eye of Annihilation, she could tip the balance of the war. If she gave it to the Xilari or Zarth, humanity was doomed. They had one chance. "We find Vega," Rourke said, "and we take the weapon before anyone else does." A deadly chase begins. Using data from Vega's last known location, Earth's intelligence discovered a hidden signal. It led to a black market station on the edge of the galaxy, a place called Omega Drift. A place where criminals, warlords, and spies sold secrets to the highest bidder. Rourke and his team boarded their fastest ship, the Shadowhawk, and set a course for Omega Drift. They had no backup, no reinforcements, just themselves and their weapons. But time was running out. If they didn't stop Vega, humanity would not just be in the war. They would be the first to fall. The stars blurred as the Shadowhawk exited hyperspace near Omega Drift, a lawless station floating at the edge of the galaxy. It was a place where secrets were traded like currency, where criminals and spies thrived, and where Vega was hiding. Inside the ship, Commander Rourke checked his weapon. His team, Captain Doran, Sergeant Kelly, and Lieutenant Shaw, did the same. "We go in quiet," Rourke said. "Find Vega. Get the weapon. Get out." If they failed, the Eye of Annihilation would fall into the wrong hands, and humanity would burn. The search begins. As they stepped into Omega Drift, the smell of smoke and oil filled the air. Neon signs flickered overhead, advertising weapons, mercenaries, and illegal cybernetic enhancements. The team moved through the crowded marketplace, scanning faces, listening to whispers. Shaw, their tech expert, tapped into a nearby terminal. "I got a lead," he said. Vega was seen entering a back room at Black Sun Lounge, a bar run by the Syndicate. Rourke's jaw tightened. The Syndicate was one of the deadliest criminal organizations in the galaxy. If Vega was dealing with them, this was worse than they thought. "We move now," he ordered, face to face with the traitor. The Black Sun Lounge was dimly lit, filled with mercenaries, bounty hunters, and smugglers. The team spread out, keeping their hands near their weapons. Then Rourke spotted her. Vega. She sat at a booth in the back, speaking to a Zarth warlord, a massive creature with black armor and glowing red eyes. On the table between them was a holographic blueprint of the Eye of Annihilation. Rourke's blood ran cold. She wasn't just selling the weapon. She was giving them the coordinates to find it. The trap is sprung. Rourke didn't wait. He stepped forward, his blaster aimed at Vega. "That's enough, Lieutenant," he said. The bar fell silent. The Zarth warlord growled and reached for his weapon. But before he could fire, Doran shot first, blasting the table apart. Vega's eyes narrowed. "You should have stayed out of this, Commander." Then she pressed a hidden button on her wrist. The bar exploded into chaos. Syndicate mercenaries turned their weapons on Rourke's team. The Zarth warlord roared as his guards surrounded him. And Vega ran. A desperate chase. The team fought their way through the bar, dodging blaster fire and knocking out enemies. Kelly used a shock grenade to disable the Syndicate guards, while Doran held off the Zarth warriors. Rourke sprinted after Vega, pushing through the chaos. He chased her through dark alleys, past rusted metal walkways, up to a landing platform where a small ship was waiting. Vega turned, her gun raised. "Don't do this, Vega," Rourke said, aiming his weapon at her. She smirked. "You don't understand, Commander. The war will never end unless someone forces it to. With the Eye, humanity won't just survive. We'll rule." A shuttle roared to life behind her. "I wish you could see the bigger picture," she said. Then, before Rourke could fire, she jumped onto the shuttle, escaping into the night sky. Rourke clenched his fists as the ship vanished into the darkness. But he wasn't angry. He was smiling. Because in the chaos, Shaw had hacked Vega's ship. They now had the coordinates to the Eye of Annihilation, and they were going to get to it before she did. The coordinates led to a dying star system, hidden deep in the void, a place no sane traveler would ever go. Rourke and his team sat in the shadowbox, staring at the holographic map. The system was littered with black holes, collapsing planets, and strange energy distortions. And at its heart, on a broken, forgotten world, was the Eye of Annihilation. But they weren't the only ones coming. Vega had a head start, and behind her, both the Xilari and the Zarth were on the move. This wasn't just a mission anymore. It was a race for the most powerful weapon in the galaxy, a rival at the dead planet. The Shadowhawk dropped out of hyperspace, shaking violently as it passed through the system's unstable gravity fields. Ahead, the planet loomed, a ruined wasteland, cracked apart by ancient wars. Vega's ship was already there, parked near a massive alien structure, glowing faintly with energy. "She's inside," Kelly said, scanning the area. "And she's not alone," Doran added. "I'm picking up multiple heat signatures, Xilari and Zarth forces. They're closing in fast." Rourke clenched his jaw. They had minutes before all hell broke loose. "Then we move now," he ordered. Inside the vault, the team rushed through the ruins, weapons ready. The walls were covered in ancient markings, depicting massive wars fought with weapons that shattered planets. And at the center of the chamber, floating in a swirling vortex of blue light, was the Eye of Annihilation, a perfect, glowing sphere pulsing with unimaginable power. And standing beside it, working on a control panel, was Vega. She turned as Rourke approached, smirking. "You're too late, Commander," she said. "I've activated it. Soon, the galaxy will be ours." "You're making a mistake," Rourke said. "You don't know what that thing can really do." Vega laughed. Oh, but I do. And I'm going to use it to end this war, on our terms. Then the ground shook violently. The Xilari and Zarth had arrived. The three-way battle. Explosions tore through the ruins as enemy soldiers stormed inside. Xilari warriors in golden armor fired plasma rifles, cutting down anyone in their way. Zarth brutes, towering and armored, smashed through walls, attacking anything that moved. And in the middle of the chaos, Vega activated the eye. The room filled with blinding energy as the sphere pulsed, sending out a shockwave that knocked everyone off their feet. Rourke barely managed to grab onto a railing as the vault began to collapse. Vega stood near the control panel, her eyes wide with realization. Something was wrong. The eye wasn't just a weapon. It was alive. And now, it was waking up. The final choice. The ground cracked. A massive storm of energy ripped through the battlefield, disintegrating Xilari and Zarth forces in an instant. Vega stared at the eye, her confidence gone. No, this isn't how it was supposed to happen. Rourke pushed himself up, aiming his weapon at her. "Shut it down, Vega." "I can't," she screamed. "It's self-sustaining. It's feeding off the planet's energy." The ancient vault began to collapse, the walls crumbling as the eye pulsed faster and faster. Rourke had seconds to decide. If the eye fully activated, it could destroy everything. The planet, the system, maybe even the entire galaxy. There was only one way to stop it. The eye of annihilation pulsed wildly, sending shockwaves through the collapsing vault. The planet was tearing itself apart. Commander Rourke gritted his teeth as he dodged falling debris, his team scrambling behind him. Vega stood frozen, staring at the weapon she had awakened, her dream of controlling it shattered by reality. The Xilari and Zarth warriors who had survived were fleeing, their leaders realizing too late that the battle was lost. But Rourke and his team couldn't run. Not yet. They had to stop the eye before it wiped out the entire system. A desperate plan. Sergeant Kelly shouted over the chaos. "The energy readings are off the charts. If that thing goes critical, we're all dead." Lieutenant Shaw frantically worked on his scanner. "There's a failsafe built into the vault systems, but it's ancient tech. I don't know if it'll work." Vega, her face pale, whispered, "There is no failsafe. This thing was never meant to be controlled." Rourke clenched his fists. Then they had only one choice. "We destroy it," he said. Vega snapped her head toward him. "You can't. Do you have any idea what kind of power you're about to throw away?" "Yeah," Rourke said. "The kind that gets billions of people killed." He turned to Shaw. "Tell me we have enough explosives to take it out." Shaw hesitated. "If we overload the ship's reactor and rig it to blow, maybe. Then we do it." The betrayal. As the team rushed to plant the charges, Vega grabbed her weapon and aimed it at Rourke. "I can't let you do this," she said. "Humanity deserves to be more than just survivors. With the eye, we could rule the stars." Rourke didn't flinch. "Or we could become the monsters we've been fighting against." Vega's hands trembled. Then, before she could decide, Kelly shot the gun out of her hand. "You're done, traitor," Kelly growled. Vega glared, breathing heavily, but she knew she had lost. And then, the eye roared. The escape. With seconds left before the explosion, Rourke's team ran for the Shadowhawk. The vault collapsed behind them, the eye's energy ripping apart the planet's crust. As they reached their ship, Vega hesitated, staring back at the glowing sphere. Then, with a look of defeat, she ran after them. The Shadowhawk blasted into the sky, just as the charges detonated. A massive shockwave engulfed the ruins, and the Eye of Annihilation was consumed in fire. A second later, the entire planet imploded. Rourke exhaled as they soared through space, the blast visible behind them. It was over. The war wasn't won, but humanity had stopped a weapon that could have ended everything. Epilogue. A new future. Back on Earth, Rourke stood before the Galactic Council. explaining what had happened. The Xilari and Zarth both pulled back their forces, shaken by what they had seen. For the first time in centuries, the war slowed down. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new. Vega sat in a prison cell, staring out at the stars. She had tried to change the galaxy by force, but humanity had done it by making the right choice. And that was why they would always endure.